some guy got it in with kings, and the guy's like, ooh, that's a bad call with ICM. And like they didn't even get that he was joking. Like they were looking at him like, bad call, it's kings, man. I was like, yeah, you have to consider the ICM there though. Stuff like that. And then when that card was marked, the ace was marked or whatever, they were talking back and forth, and they obviously swapped the deck out. And he's like, yeah, but now we're playing in a deck with only 3 aces, so you gotta factor that in.
Let's crush.
What's the strategy for today? Win. How? Just by winning. Lucky, but just. So we're playing today the 1.5k Millionaires Maker.
Yeah.
How many bullets do we have? 1, right? 1
2.
re-entry. 2?
You can play 2. You can enter twice.
Right, we need to consider that.
So Ben can punt off, is what he's saying.
No, the other's gonna be punting off.
Ben has been telling me for 5 years, always hero fold. First hand review he does with me last night. So this guy had all of this stuff, and I had to call. I had to call.
Shut the fuck up.
Okay, so raise from under the gun, middle position calls. We have ace king off on the hijack or cutoff. I jam my 22 big blinds. Everything folds, under the gun folds, and then this guy 2 or 3 to my right. Also looks pretty young, so I would guess he's a decent player. I mean, he said he follows Razor Edge, he follows me, so I assume that he knows a little bit what he's doing. He played quite solid, but then he ended up calling ace jack suited, which I think is a pretty bad call. I mean, I re-jam from, not the blinds, I re-jam from cutoff or even hijack, 22 bigs. It's like, it's gonna be like ace jack suited plus ace queen off plus. Maybe once in a blue moon ace 10 suited if I think players are open raising too wide. But just flatting ace jack suited is just really bad. I mean, of course, I'm gonna have the occasional 9s or 10s, but you're just running full range into ace king and ace queen. And I'm probably also just ripping aces and kings there because I know live people just against under the gun. That's what I'm teaching you to our masterclass. We have looked into that, guys. The 4 to 3 bet from early position. Like, people just don't understand that when you rejam against under the gun, you can fold a lot of hands. You've also seen it in the range rule. You also see the paired ranges. Ace queen off, fold against 3 bets from under the gun. Unless you play against in super soft fields. Typically 3 bet against under the guns are very strong, and you should be folding a lot of hands. This just requires discipline. I know ace jack suited looks beautiful, but I'm also rejamming more than 20 bigs. I'm not rejamming 14 bigs or 13 bigs where you can make that side call, and all it requires is just having the occasional flip against 10s or 9s. This is how this spot works. You don't need to be an Albert Einstein to figure that out, all right? So when you face all-ins, you have 20 bigs, or it's effectively 20 bigs. Usually it's ace queen suited plus, 10s plus. That's pretty good orientation. Very often I would even fold ace queen suited against certain opponents because it's just, they're going to be an ace queen plus. So what do you want to fuck around with ace queen suited? Just hoping for a flip? No. Move on, they're going to be better spots. He calls with ace jack suited, which I was really happy with. Board ran out clean, and we moved, we managed to double up, and then we're up to like 45 bigs.
So we're around 65k, 60 bigs. Going in the dinner break. Gonna meet Jer somewhere. No fucking clue where he is. Going good so far. I think 2 more levels and then we're done with day 1. Cheers. GG, Platinum Lounge. Having dinner break. Sauerkraut and beef. That's the GG Lounge. Uh-oh.
14,000.
So we got pocket aces, 3 bet against somewhat solid opponent, 2 or 3 to my right, younger guy. Then small blind, he looks very Brazil, maybe Spain, can't really tell, we haven't chatted that much. He cold calls my 3 bet. and I think he was on 50 big blind or 40 big blinds. I was at that point at around 70 big blinds. I think I covered him slightly, and the initial raise I folded. Now the board comes ace deuce 3, and we should have a lot more ace-x, like ace queens. We can even have an ace 10 suited, ace king. Here in the small blind, maybe he has ace queen, but he's never gonna have ace king. Plus he's not having those 3-bet bluffs, right? He's not gonna have ace 10 suited, which we can have. We can have ace queen off, which he shouldn't have. Like, it's just a snap fold pre-flop against these positions and facing a 3-bet. But also I'm gonna have a lot of kings, queens, jacks, 10s, weak ace-x. So it makes a lot of sense to mix in some checks. And also, I mean, it's fine to range bet this board. Again, we have more ace-x, and even if we have queens, a small bet, getting some value from jacks and 10s is not that bad as well. I decided to check because he already has shown a hand that he likes to play fancy and he likes to play his hands rather aggressive. And he picks on, or that he also picks up on someone shows weakness. He check raised and double barreled early on, straight draws, turn second pair, continues the aggression. So I had a pretty good read on him, how he likes to play his hands. And I saw more EV of checking back. And again, live poker, I just try to play my hand max EV against this very opponent. And not, oh, what my range is supposed to look like and all that kind of garbage. No, I think this guy is playing his hands way too aggressive. And it actually pays off. I check back the flop, turn, I think we're 20K in the middle. I 3-bet to something like 7K. He calls a 3-bet with a raise blind. So the pot was around 80, 90, 20K-ish. And he bets 14K on the turn. I was like, what the fuck? It's not a good sizing because I have an easy fold with kings or queens if he has an ace. But also in case, and I can check back ace 10, I can check back aces, I can check back maybe also ace king if I see, hey, I don't have 3 streets of value. Because I don't think he has ace queen, rather try to let him bluff with pocket 10s. So he bets 14K, I call, and which is a really weird line. Again, I don't think it's a good bet or good size against my range in general, even if we want to play a little bit more theoretical. And then the river, so flop was ace 2-3 and a flush draw. But again, I don't think he's gonna have king queen suited, jack 10 suited. He played something solid from what I've seen with his pre-flop ranges, so I wouldn't put him on that kind of range. If I play against a random live player, I would still bet. I see people cold calling those 3-bets with all sorts of garbage. So I want to get value from flush draws, even ace 10 suited, ace jack suited, that might be in the mix. Anyway, turn is an 8. He bets pretty big. I call. And I think if he was on a bluff, that he will always give up the river. Now, river is an 8, so we have top full house, he checks, and now we're in this situation, what sizing to choose, right? So pot was around 45K, 45 to 50K, and it's really, really hard to get value. I was actually thinking of like just betting 2 big blinds, 3 big blinds, because I actually put him on jacks and 10s that tried to bluff me off queens or kings. That's how I thought he would play his hands quite often. These are the most logical hands to me. Yeah, everything else wouldn't really make sense. I think if he has ace king pot controlled, he would bet. If he has ace queen, I don't think it would bet big. He would bet big. So it was just like, I want to give him some rope, turn something into bluff, but I still want to get maximum value in case he has this random ace king or ace queen. So that's why I decided to bet 16K. He snap folded, and later on he told me he had jacks. So yeah, and he tried to get me off kings or queens on the turn, but yeah, just didn't work out. And I was actually pretty happy how I played the hand, because that's also how I assessed the way he would play the hand. So that boosted our stack quite a bit, and I think we were then playing like around 120K or 100K, but whatever, it's not that important.
You all in?
Yeah, we're lucky here though.
Huh?
Ace all day.
No shavers this end.
Easy.
I'm not even looking at the board, I'm looking at Ben.
Oh.
Ah.
So that was a pretty interesting hand. So that lady open raised, and I already won a couple of pots against her. I think 2 or 3 pots before that. And she had lots of chips, but she lost quite some. So maybe, you know, you have to factor this in on later. factor this in later on. So she raises a little over min raise with 8-3 suited in the big blind. I think she raised from the hijack or middle position. But anyway, doesn't make such a big difference. We call, I think she had around 30k chips, no 40k chips, or between 30 and 40k chips. If I remember correctly, blinds were 600, 1,200. So yeah, 30, 35 big blinds. I call, we cover, I had like 80, 90k. So the flop comes 9, 4, 3. So we have bottom pair and a flush draw. Pretty strong hand, especially with that stack depth. Now I check, and usually I would suspect a small bet, maybe sometimes like a 2/3 pot bet if she would play it somewhat according to what she's supposed to do to the solver with hands like ace-9 or pocket tens. But she pots, she pot bets, she throws in 6k. I mean, with the blind she raised to 2.5, 5k, yeah, pot was around 6k and she bet 6k. Now my thought process is that sometimes it could be nut flush draws, it could be king eye flush draws, but the most important point here is that I think that she might have been a bit, and she looked obviously frustrated having lost so many pots in a row, because the first couple of hours she just kept building a stack, and what most people cannot handle is when things start going downhill, and then people start trying to desperately win pots and do plays just to win the pot. So I can even see just a random ace king betting pot. I want to win the pot. I just want to win a pot to go back and to regain the momentum. And also what I considered is I've seen crazy forwards. Like sometimes you see crazy hero cards. I mean, if I have tens and I bet pot and someone jams, I am happily snap calling it off. But when you listen to the table talk, when your opponents talk about certain hands and they're like, yeah, I would fold here against this, and I'm like, are you fucking insane? I remember one pot where a guy contemplated to bet forward a full house on deuce 3, 9, 9, 7, where she could also be shoving pocket deuces for value, ace 9. He tanked forever, I think I'm beat. Yeah, he was beaten at it, but it's like a fucking snap call. Anyway, I've seen and heard these crazy stories. So there's also the chance that she just bet forwards pocket tens because she puts me on a random 2-pair, or she doesn't want a coin flip against a flush draw. All sorts of irrational assumptions or logic, or no logic at all. So that's why I just went for the jam. Don't want to overcomplicate. There are a lot of factors that speak for a jam and makes it a really, really good jam. Usually I would be very suspicious when someone starts pot C betting, and she tanked quite long and she ended up folding. I actually don't think it's that likely that she had a flush draw. So I think she might actually have folded an overpair or maybe a 9x kind of hand. So yeah, we scooped that pot as well, and I think then I went over 100k in chips, almost 100 big blinds. So yeah, it was a good phase for sure. All right, king 10 off, got a little frisky with that hand. Open raised, also a bit of a looser open raise from UTG, but again, guy to my left. I thought that he 3-bet forward early against me, and he bluffed early against me, and I called him, and I also 4-bet against him, and so I felt like he was slowing down quite a bit. So I would assume he's not going to bluff 3-bet me again. He's not going to be bluffing against me. And then the players behind also rather solid. It's definitely loose open, but it's fine in a live environment. Big blind calls, and the flop comes ace a7. Pretty good board to c-bet for us. He calls, I bet small of course. Turn is a jack, and here we want to keep up the aggression. Again, especially when you have the pair top cards and you have another card, but there's only one card. It's more likely that he has that card, that he has a 7-8 suited, 7-5 suited, and he can still float pocket 5s, pocket 8s. If he has like ace deuce, at least we have the queen as a bit of a backup, right? But I don't even mind barreling randomly here with the king 9, because his range is just so wide. We bet very small on the flop. So yeah, I decided to bet big, 2/3 or 3/4 pot, which I would also do with my strong ace-6. He ended up thinking for a little bit, but then he ended up folding, so we scooped a nice little pot right there. $1,800. So next hand, hijack, I open, queen 5 suited, a bit of a loose open, but I think it's fine. People didn't 3-bet a lot against me. Big blind calls, I would think he was a recreational, but he still played kind of solid. The flop comes queen 6-3, so we have a pretty decent hand. There's a flush draw, we don't have a flush draw, we don't have a backdoor flush draw, we don't connect with the suits at all. He checks, so we have around 4.5k in the middle, something like that. He checks, and I decided to check back. Again, I try to play my hand max EV. So that means I try to choose the best possible decision based on my opponent. Even though this might be a range bet, the way my opponent has played so far, he was fighting for a lot of pots. He was not pulling off crazy bluffs or anything, but I could see he was sticky, he was leading a lot of turns, he would bluff, he got caught, he mugged. So he was really trying to fight for those small or medium-sized pots. So if I would assess this kind of player type online, I would assume he has a very high lead turn or bet on the turn versus miss c-bet stat. Right? It would be really high, maybe like 60% or something. So that is very, very important when it comes to the flop decision. Because he might be the type of player who just randomly bets his 10 high on the turn because I showed weakness. So our hand is a bet check or bet check bet or check bet bet kind of hand anyway. We don't have 3 streets of value for the most part. So we want to introduce a check at some point anyway, and if we play against an opponent who likes to aggressively lead against checks, then you want to start checking on the flop. So I check on the flop, the turn is a 7, so now we have a gut shot. Queen 6-3, 7. The flush draw did not get there. He leads 1/3, exactly what I expected to happen. And we have 2 options now. We can call, or we can throw in a large freeze raise. You can also raise against these small leads. You can raise jacks or 10s. Maybe he calls a second pair, he calls his draws and then checks back. I would expect people leading queen X better. So against these small leads, you can still raise really wide for value. But again, I would just imagine this opponent is quite sticky and just likes to maintain the aggression against when someone showed weakness. So yeah, I just ended up calling. The river is a 4, so now we have a straight that we should very often not have, right? Because we're the preferred raiser. We're not going to be raising a lot of 5x hands. In fact, he should have enormous amounts of 5x hands. 6-5, 10-5 suited, Jack-5 suited. There are a lot of hands he can have. So he checks, and I think this is a card where he should have a very high betting frequency. He can use big bets, he can use small bets, he can block bet some weaker queen X against jacks and 10s. He can bet half pot with 2 pairs against my weaker queen X. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He can go pretty big with some straights. He doesn't need to be worried at all to get raised because we don't have a lot of 5x. He has more 5x, so his range is really protected. However, what I've seen so far from live players is they're really, really bad at value betting. They're shitting their pants way too often because they don't want to face this decision of raises. Right? When you look into those spots, when you work with solvers, you see that on the river you're raising frequencies 3%, 5%, 12%. So most of the time it's not even happening. And especially live, people don't bluff raise a lot or raise thin for value. Of course you see crazy punty plays and bluffs once in a blue moon, but most of the time you're just going to be facing a call, especially on the board where your opponent is not having a lot of straights. So here I went pretty big. I'm not like, what should I do? I don't have a lot of 5x. I want to have also some queen x that can value bet thin, and that's why I go 50%. No, fuck that bullshit. You're just missing too much value. So you need to throw your GTO stuff out of the window in these spots, flush it down the toilet, and then just play some real poker. And understanding that in these spots they will have 2 pairs way more than they're supposed to, or some good queen x that could block bet, and they're not going to be folding. So I just throw in a big bet close to pot, and then he tanks for a little bit, get called, and we chip up. That's how it's supposed to go. And don't get too stuck in thinking what's supposed to happen in theory. Try to assess what type of opponent your opponent is, also the experience you have gathered live. These are the key information that you need to make in order to also find out how big you can go with your value bets. Unfortunately, it didn't show, so I don't know what he called with, but I assume 2 pair. Again, I don't think a good queen would bet so small on the turn, so I would assume it's very often a 2 pair. Maybe found a hero call with like an ace-7 suited type of hand, but yeah, we never know. So we have 8 deuce suited in the big blind, small blind limps in. I check behind suited hands. I would mostly raise a lot of trash. Flop comes ace, king, 8. We both play around 40-50 big blinds, and he has been also playing rather solid. And check, check. I think betting doesn't make a lot of sense. I think if he has jack 9, 10, 9, he would often bet himself. If he has queen, jack, queen, 10, he's not folding anyway, and we would just fold out pocket 5s or pocket 4s. So we check, and the turn is 5 in diamonds. So now we have third pair and a backdoor flush draw. He bets standard 2/3 pot, and I call. And the river brings a low card, a 4, and our flush. Now he checks, and I already mentioned this in some of my other videos, that what I've seen so far and pretty much confirms what I've experienced so far live, also like 4 or 5 years ago when I played my first and second WSOP and EPT Barcelona. People are freaking tight when it comes to value betting. So they're gonna have a lot more ace-x and 2 pairs in their range, and that's why people are so bad blind versus blind, and you need to factor that in. If you start thinking about half pot and 2/3 and 1/4 to be balanced, to be whatever bullshit you're trying to make up, just throw this out of the window and just click the pot button. So I went for like slightly under pot. Maybe it was even pot, you don't have the exact number of the pot size in mind. So I threw in a big bet because I know he's still gonna have those ace-x and 2 pairs, which he's not supposed to have. He can check call against like some random bluffs with king x. He should be value betting any ace because we're gonna have still all the king x that we can bluff catch with. He can bluff with queen, jack, jack 10s. That's usually how this spot works, but people still think way too much in absolute hand strength, and there's a flush, he has a 2 pair, oh my opponent can have a flush, right? So I check, and of course I can have a flush, but what if I have a weak ace that I'm not going to be value betting? You're going to miss so much value. A bluff catcher with a king that I might call, even just against half pot, you can, if you're out of position, you can block bet 1/3. I'm going to be side calling a king. So he checks. And he actually had a 2 pair with king 4, which is absolutely insane. He would have lost way less if he just bets half pot and folds against the raise, or if he block bets 1/3 to at least get those calls from king x. And this is where I see people just blundering it so much with their value hands. And yeah, we scooped a nice pot.
No, I need a bag. Yeah, it's okay like this. Sunlight or 2? That's fine. I have 2.
So, made day 2, first flight, first bullet, that's always good. Now heading home to the jungle of the slot machines. We're skipping those. We're not here to gamble. We're here for serious business. What would you call in a live setting, 10s here, in a spot? I mean, obviously we call here.
What do you mean, what do I call?
Like what other hands? I mean, let's say you flat jack 10 suited, would you call against a squeeze?
From small blind?
Yeah. What? I would probably call these hands. Pocket pairs.
We're talking live, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, live.
Yeah.
I don't think I would play jack.
Against the average don't.
Certain people I would, but not against others who are 3-betting like nothing, or only things that dominate me.
Yeah.
I'd rather have the low suited connector stuff or shit like that than
I mean, here we just jam, right?
yeah, all day.
Oh, it still wants to call sometimes. Yeah, we also jam.
Same there, yeah.
I also would never slow play here because I just think it's super strong.
Yeah.
But I guess we call here. Oh,
No, even the solver doesn't do it. Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously a fold.
Yeah.
But also here, the moment there's a way. But the problem is even with king 6 off, the value also defending those, you need to bluff a lot post flop. Otherwise, you're just not gonna hit with this kind of hand. Yeah, I think that looks good. I think even again with a way like just the wheel aces.
That way more of the offsuit aces.
Yeah, but not if there's a way like he's gonna call his king 9 suited. But they're definitely calling on. I probably would even call a 6-3 off.
This would be pretty player dependent. You could 3-bet here, you could call here, you could fold here.
Yeah, I would call. Wow. Yeah, wants to fold quite often. Yeah, but of course we're not doing it live. I mean, the problem is, but this is very unrealistic, is that
the blinds just can jam insane, right?
Yeah, but they're not going to do that live.
Yeah. So I definitely call any suited ace. I would call even 6-4 suited shit.
Jack 9, Queen 9 for sure.
Yeah,
The King 9 full.
Fold.
Yeah. Like
What's the worst pair you would?
8s or 9s probably, right? 'Cause we're still in position here. Maybe even 9s. But like 8s I would consider too, depending.
To call or to jam?
Oh, jam? Like we're probably 10s, Jacks jam. I don't think we're jamming. Maybe, I don't know about 9s, maybe some 9s. Definitely not jamming 8s, I don't think.
But I mean, it doesn't really make any difference if you have 10, 9s, 8s, or 7s in this spot.
I know, but I'm just in this all you timed out.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we fold here, yeah. But, yeah.
Jamming all 3?
Yeah, but I would not. I think this spot I would also be super tight. I mean, if it's an aggressive reg, yeah, but also he squeezes against under the gun. So, like,
I just don't think, like, this is the spot necessarily where you need to take a flip either.
Yeah. I mean, you're not even flipping that often.
Well, that's your best case.
I honestly would fold 7s and 8s here. Live. Against most players. And even 9s I would like. 10s I would call. I would definitely call. And Jacks, if I end up having Jacks, I just jam. There's a chance he does it with Queen 10, so I want to get the money in.
But these guys are deep enough that they can squeeze. They can have enough squeeze.
I would still. I think in these spots you call really wide because he is supposed to play very careful. Yeah, 8-6, 7-6, suited King X. Yeah, suited Kings are. He really likes those from the small blind. Guess we call.
It's got to be both. Like, I mean, it's weird to 3-bet full this though.
Yeah.
Pure call?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like, it's the right kind of hand. I just figured.
I mean, just 3-bet too much off-suited crap.
Oh, this is like one of those probably solver 4-bet ones, yeah.
Yeah. I probably live I would fold this. I think this is just so terrible. Like, if you look how wide he's supposed to 3-bet, UDG2.
I don't know if I'm folding King Queen to a single 3-bet, but I'm not saying it's not probably right in most cases.
Oh fuck! But yeah, we just seen like it's insane.
Are we calling Ace Queen? Oh, you went away.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you're calling Ace Queen with a great jam there. Call in 3-bet.
Oh, we fold.
Pure. Oh, this is ICM, right?
Yeah. Still.
So we're just jamming or 3-betting in that spot.
I mean, I also here I would never call King Queen. I would never call Ace 10 suited against a regular live player. It's just you have to fold like crazy.
Well, they're never having all those like random, like high card, low card 3-bets.
Yeah.
Most doesn't even have that much. Just jams and then like kings and then the suited
Yeah, he
aces.
doesn't even have that many aces here in this range.
Ace 9, Ace 10. Just tiny amount.
Yeah.
Not
Also,
calling this
like
suited
even
king.
see, that's what I mean. Ace Queen off, Jordy wants to start folding. I just don't think people. You will in life, you probably will find a lot of players that don't even have any 3-bets at all.
Yeah, it's not fold Ace
So,
Queen there.
I mean, that's just insane. Like people are not 3-betting 5% here in this spot. Just 2 or 3%. Aces, kings, maybe an ace king, maybe a little bit of queens. They're even shitting their pants with queens.
I bet you they still 3-bet queens. Jacks, they for sure probably flat all the time though. We just saw the bottom jump to 3-bet
Yeah.
there, yeah.
Wow.
I don't even know if like he has enough behind to make it worthwhile.
I mean, we could. I think the solver wants to jam this because he's probably doing it with some off-suited aces, and then folding. So with the dead money, I would just jam.
It's nice. I mean,
Yeah. I hate this to fold, but what's
cool.
call?
I mean-
All the suited kings.
oh, insane.
How wide is the small blind supposed to 3-bet here then?
It's not the
Oh,
small.
it's a button. Yeah.
I mean, he also only 3-bets 5 big blinds, right?
yeah.
So it's not the 3x, 2.5x, and then you have to defend
You're
ultra
still,
wide.
you're still out of position.
I mean, that's actually pretty interesting as an exploit live. That probably works like insane. Yeah, I should do that more a lot. That's a good learning. That's a very good learning. Like in these situations, just 3-betting 2.5x.
Those little click raises.
Yeah, I mean, I would
Yeah.
fold live, but I mean, it's not even click raise. You gotta raise to 4K, 3-bet to 10K.